everyone, and welcome back to your weekly GamerGuild Podcast, where myself, Chris, and my lovely co-host Richie get together and round up all the weekly gaming news for your viewing or listening pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV, and also available up there in the digital clouds on your podcast service of choice. This week we've got a fantastic show lined up talking about your PlayStation Plus games for the month of October. PlayStation head Jim Ryan set to step down, in fact. I can't talk this morning now, I'm a bit tired. A new FarCry game leaks and much, much more. But before we get into it all, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that bell so you're kept in the loop with all the other great content we do here on the channel, like this very show, and also our weekly live streams, watch-alongs, and much more. This past week, I dove into 007 Bloodstone for part 2 of my PlayStation 3 playthrough of the Daniel Craig-led action-adventure game, and I also had a look at EA Sports FC 24, also known as FIFA 24, and we'll talk more about that as we get into the show. But before we do, introducing my lovely co-host, the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, and no Rob today. He's busy doing errands with his father, so he's took a step aside. As Richie, to be fair, we get together to celebrate, at the time of recording, our 4th year anniversary.
Yeah, and he's me without a party hat.
No party hat, as per tradition. But yeah, 4 years, Richie, of doing content. To the day, 30th of September is our anniversary. We should probably apologise. No live stream this year. Our schedules are way too busy for it. Babies and work and so many video games to play, ironically. We're not doing a celebration. And occasionally sleep. We do have plans to do kind of a full game live stream at some point. We're thinking maybe Halo 2, but rather than break it up over a few weeks, just see if we can commit to like a full day session and just get through that. So that's in the pipeline for a date once we lock that down. But I guess we just wanted to say, like, thank you once again. I feel like we say thank you a lot, but for all of our listeners, viewers, everyone who's supported the channel along the journey, even you, Jeff, Fred, John, Simon, Anthony.
That's a long name.
I learned out the other day reading a book, Jesus, was actually derived from Joshua because there was no J in the Hebrew alphabet. There you go. Random fact of the day. But I digress. Yes, 4 years, no mean feat in the world of YouTube, especially when you're an adult and you don't have all the time to nick off college and school and just stream on Twitch well into the early hours of the morning. We've made it work. We've made it happen, Richie. Sounds of Stadia, all the way through Helix Cloud games, Helix Players games, GamerGuildTV, where we're at today. And I think we're confident we've settled on this one. By our current stretch, we've changed it every year. Yeah. But I don't think that's the plan going forward. I think we've gone through a lot of unification, and we're here today, happy, content.
What after Stadia died, there's been a lot of trial and error trying to figure out what this is. Talking about Stadia, we have an episode of Sounds of Stadia.
We do, yeah. At the time the show goes live for regular viewers and listeners, this past Saturday, on our anniversary, later on this afternoon for us, we're actually recording a special Sounds of Stadia episode where we're going to go into Dov Zimring's testimony from the FTC trial case of Activision, Blizzard King, and Microsoft acquisition. Basically, Dov laid out everything that went wrong with Stadia in a perfectly detailed document with behind-the-scenes factual evidence and information, which in a way, it's probably the most insight we've ever had into the running of Google Stadia, both during its function and after the fact. So we're going to do a very special episode. We have done a very special episode. We're glad if you joined us live. But yeah, go check that out.
That's why it's not in this show. We're not going to be talking about it here.
No, not at all.
It's own episode.
It does indeed. The news came out like 2 weeks ago, I think, but it's definitely pertinent to get in there. So yes, episode 161 of the longest running Stadia podcast ever continues. It lives on, maybe with a 5-6 month hiatus, but it's back. We hope you go check that out and enjoy it, because it's no doubt
annual
a great
episode.
show. The annual Christmas special episode that we do. But Richie, we're here to talk about the current video game news. As I said, we've got a lot going on in the pipeline. And before we do get into it all, I just want to shout out our wonderful members as well. We couldn't do this without your wonderful support. Ever since we ticked over that 1,000 mark, you guys have gone above and beyond to support us. And you can do that from as little as 99p, which a lot of you do. You do get this show early and the stickers and badges next to your name. But more importantly, it just shows that you appreciate the content that we do. And every time you listen, you watch, the hundreds of you who check out our content. I think you're with us for the long haul now, it feels like. There's a set core group of people in the hundreds who tune in every single week regardless. And you're amazing. So, Richie, before we get into the news, what have you been playing recently? I've been dabbling in a few different things, as I mentioned at the top of the show, but how about you? Are you still chipping away in the old Starfield?
No, actually. So we had there was a bit of a conversation thread in our Discord about Starfield and the nature of New Game Plus. And once I ticked over, I felt a bit flat. To be honest, because you lose a lot of your. Yeah, I'm not going to go into any narrative spoilers.
Okay, good.
But you do lose like things like progression. So if you have any of your ships are gone, your weapons and armor gone, any outposts you've built gone. So
it's not really a traditional New Game Plus, is it?
No, it's not.
It's more like New Game Minus.
It makes a lot of narrative sense and does impact completely how you will do a subsequent playthrough. So a second playthrough will be very different to the first.
Absolutely.
But you lose all your stuff. So if you spend ages building an outpost on Earth, which I did, it's gone. And stuff like that, I just kind of, when you just feel a bit flat because of it, it's like, I understand everything behind it, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad decision. But I took this as an opportunity because I know Starfield is going to be one of them games like Skyrim where every few years I'll just jump back into for another run.
Yeah.
So I decided to call time on it now. It's because I had a nice close-off point, and next time I get the edge to go do another playthrough, I will just continue on. So all that stuff I've lost will no longer. I'm no longer caring about that. Because it's more removed.
That precious weapon that you've used all the time, you'll have forgot what it even was, so it doesn't really have that impact as much.
So in terms of that replayability from that context, I think it's infinite, basically. And I've heard like subsequent New Game Pluses keep changing things up as well.
Yes, I've also heard that.
So that's what I've not been playing. What I have been playing is I went back to Sea of Stars.
Oh, wonderful. Pulled you back in.
Yeah, I was tossing up between Sea of Stars and Final Fantasy 16. But with Sea of Stars being a game I definitely wanted to play and shorter than 16, where 16 is quite a beast of a game.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get sucked into Final Fantasy 16 and then we'll get months and months removed from Sea of Stars and how to go back to. So I thought I'll do Sea of Stars first, play through the story. I'm not going for trophy hunting or anything. Unless I get to the end and like 8% there, something I need like 2 or 3 trophies. Then I probably will. And then I'm going to go on to 16 after that.
You say that now. When did 16 come out? May. June. Oh, it's this year, man. This year's taken away.
Yeah, but I've played things like Final Fantasy 7, Octopath Traveler, Zelda this year, like a bit of Pokemon. So I just haven't got around to it.
Yeah, what a year for video games, though. I also have broken away from Starfield. I was very surprised actually how short the main campaign was. Once you actually committed to doing it, it very much became this is the MacGuffin of the whole story. Go do this several times over, and then there's the last mission, and it was like, oh wow, I know the world is padded out with the side content, but I did a couple of missions. I became a space ranger officially, got my Buzz Lightyear Medal of Honor, so I did those missions. I dabbled in a couple of like kind of quirky side ones, and then I thought, you know what, I'll start making my way through the main campaign. And then, like you said, before I knew it, I was at the end game. I got to that point you discussed where I kind of lost everything, and the busy schedule we've got now, it actually made it the perfect time for me to go, as you said, just put it to a side. I had FIFA coming in a matter of days. Oh, not FIFA, you know what I mean. EA Sports FC 24 coming in a matter of days. Assassin's Creed Mirage is out next week. I'll probably have a first look up on the channel. And then Spider-Man's in less than 20 days now, so...
Oh, God, I forgot about Spider-Man.
Yeah, you did. Remember Final Fantasy 16? You said all of 2 minutes ago you were going to start. Spider-Man 2 is out in 20 days.
It is going to be Final Fantasy 16 because I've already bought it. I haven't bought Spider-Man yet.
Yeah, well, Spider-Man.
And I'm not flush with cash at the moment, so...
Oh, I know that feeling.
I'm going to be pushing that back.
I know that feeling.
Into next year. Yeah.
But you guys can help out by subscribing to the channel and becoming a member. That 99p goes a long way to helping Richie fund his Spider-Man addiction.
Apart from it doesn't.
It doesn't really, no. You would need...
for things like the podcasting fees.
That's true, the hosting fees. But yeah, so I've kind of moved on from that. And as I said, this week, I got back to Bloodstone. Really, like, a good... Like, it's nice to have a palate cleanser, but one that's so just, like... old school basic. It's like there's nothing going on in this story, Richie. It's very much James Bond goes A to B, kills some people, gets a little bit of plot point, kills some more people. There's a scene with the driving the Aston Martin around, shoots some shit. Next scene, very cringy dialogue with a woman that's probably inappropriate for today's standards. Villain shows up, kills some more people, and then it kind of moves on. But you know what? I'm enjoying it. It's one of those, like, it's very much Uncharted, cover, duck and cover mechanic, shoot, various weapons. And yeah, I'm just working my way through these stages and I'm having fun. I've probably got one last playthrough left. I think the game's about 6 or 7 hours, so I'm probably just going to gun-ho on the last stream when I get around to doing that one. But thanks to everyone who's checked that out. And as I said, yeah, I've checked out EA Sports FC, but we'll get into that with part of the news with its review roundup. And then, like I said, I'm primed for Assassin's Creed Mirage, which comes out on Tuesday, but I'm away with work this week quite a lot. So it's like, it's going to, you get that message from Amazon saying your parcel's been delivered, and you're like, why am I not at home? Damn it. But I digress. Richie, let's get into the thick of the show. If you could introduce us to the
graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette, aka
the news. When we do Sounds of Stadia, we get to do the old one again.
You mean Super Sexy Special Stadia Story segment?
AKA
the news. I don't even have that in front of me.
You remember that very well. That's what 161 episodes gets you, folks. Tried and tested methods. But we're here for the news, and as always, the news is brought to you by our wonderful guild heroes, the fantastic members of the channel who support us that extra bit more. I've gone through all that stuff, but basically, yes, if you want to support us, we do really, really appreciate it. And if you've been watching for quite some time, have a think about it. 99p goes a long way to adding up with all of the wonderful 50 plus of you who do support us every month. If you do the maths, that's almost £50, Richie. Every month we get. Although our podcast fees are quite high, it does help. And we've got a merch store. I should point out, I keep forgetting to talk about the merch store. There's various sales.
You're literally wearing it. You're wearing merch.
I am. You can get this t-shirt right now, both retro and current logos, available on our merch store, so go check that out. Right, Richie, busy week for video games, as I mentioned. Kicking things off, we'll quickly jump into the PlayStation Plus games for the month of October, which are your claimable games if you are on the Extra and Essentials tiers and Premium. Everyone gets this one, basically. Claim them and keep them as long as you've got a subscription. A new month means a new lineup, so spooky season, thankfully, usually means we get a spooky game. And they're kicking this one off with the Callisto Protocol, coming on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. This narrative-driven third-person survival horror game set 300 years in the future take on the role of Jacob Lee, a victim of fate thrown into a black iron prison, a maximum security penitentiary located on Jupiter's moon, Callisto. When inmates begin to transform into monstrous creatures, the prison is thrown into chaos. To survive, Jacob must battle his way to safety to escape from the black iron prison while uncovering the dark and disturbing secrets beneath the surface of Callisto. Now, this is, for all intents and purposes, the spiritual successor to Dead Space. It had the same video game director. Yeah, it did. Yeah, spiritual successor. Many years in the making, of course, from the same team who made the original Dead Space. So it's got that kind of creative DNA at its forefront. Game's only a year old, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. It came out this time last year. Oh, yeah, so it's not even a year old yet. So quite a big title to get. It was received with, I'd say, mixed reviews. The Dead Space remake eventually ended up winning out on top from critics and fans alike, I think, which is safe to say there was no surprise in that. Dead Space was always critically revered, so the fact that they just made it look better, like Resident Evil...
Yeah, it made it look better, made it play better, but it's ultimately the same game.
Mm-hmm. Ultimately. And then in hindsight as well, we've had obviously layoffs from the studio of the Callisto Protocol. I believe that one of the leads did actually leave since the game's launched. And Kraft and the guys who own this are the PUBG team. They put a lot of money into this because it does have AAA quality production value. But apparently the game fell maybe a little bit short of what the Dead Space people were expecting. But by no means it's a bad game. So Callisto Protocol, do you think this is a good win for the spooky month of October for you?
I do. Again, yeah, it's not like the highest ever rated game, but it's a perfectly competent game. I think the term was more disappointing than bad. People wanted it to be better than Dead Space, and it just wasn't.
Yeah.
That's a hard ask. And a AAA game from last year as part of your monthly pro games, I think that's a pretty solid get, to be honest.
Yeah, I do as well. We've been talking about what we should play on the channel around Halloween time. We usually do something. We've done Little Nightmares in the past. We've done Resident Evil. Now we have a potential option, in a very recent game. So Callisto Protocol might be on that dock. We'll put a vote out and let people decide eventually what it will be. But yeah, it's a good get, I think, for me. The other follow-up games, we've got Farming Simulator 22 for PS5 and PS4. I don't need to read the description of that. It is Farming Simulator. The key is in the wording. And we've got Weird West as well, which is a dark fantasy reimagined Wild West game where lawmen and gunslingers share the frontier. It's basically an action isometric RPG, and you get to let loose in the Wild West with a different style of fighting. Very cartoon art style on that one too. In terms of the games as a whole, what are your thoughts? Three titles only across all platforms, PS5 and PS4. No classic games this month. Nothing. I mean, they tend to come with the subscription catalog.
Yeah,
anyway.
That's it. They come with they tend to come in the mid month drop. Yeah. So as free games to get you going for the month, I think this is actually pretty solid. Farming Sim's quite beloved to the fact that they keep bringing it out. and there is a Farming Sim 23 already out. But I don't think the annualization of Farming Sim actually matters as much as it would for something like FIFA or Madden,
there's no...
where you have the roster changes. It's just another... I see it as, again, as someone who's not deep into Farming Sim, I just see it as another iteration of Farming Sim. So I don't think you'd be playing Farming Sim 2022, thinking, oh, God, this is wrong. This tractor's slightly been upgraded since last year.
This John Deere tractor's not the 2023 model, it's the 22 model.
I don't think it's going to feel like something missing when you play like an old FIFA game when all the squads are wrong.
Absolutely.
But I think that's a good game. And Weird West seems to be an interesting indie game, that isometric RPG, quite popular at the moment. Baldur's Gate, for example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a solid month.
In terms of farming simulator, I think it's worthwhile. In respect and honour of our anniversary, we should probably do a shout out for CGD Games, our good friend Lee, who supported the channel for quite some time. His channel's all about simulation games, so if you're into your farming simulator styles, throw back to Lee, go check out some of his content. Just Cloud Gaming Dad games.
We have history of farming sim. It was one of the first games we ever streamed.
It was it 21? Oh, not 20, 19, 19 would have been, right?
Yeah,
that's how would it be 21?
Farming sim, what was it? Samurai Showdown or something? What was it?
And Tomb Raider,
and Tomb Raider was our first ever stream.
Wow, and now we're talking Callisto Protocol, Farming Sim 22, and Weird West. So yeah, little light month, heavy month, depending on your take on it, as with all of these monthly subscription models. But Callisto Protocol, a good one for the spooky month of October. Moving on to the biggest PlayStation news of the week, though, we got a leak out from none other than Jason Schreier earlier in the week from Bloomberg, which was then corroborated by Sony by putting a public announcement out shortly after the cat was out the bag. Jim Ryan, who has ran Sony successfully PlayStation division since 2019, has been part of the video game operation since 1994, nearly 30 years, is set to retire early next year, Sony confirmed this past Wednesday. Ryan's exit, in fact, caps off a successful run, but comes at a pivotal time for Sony's powerful gaming brand as they look at the future of PlayStation 5. Ryan is going to step down as Sony Interactive CEO on March 31st next year, as Chief Operating Officer Hiroki Totoki assumes the role of Interim Division CEO until a successor is found. He'll also serve as SIE Chairman starting of October this year, so there's that slow integration. What Ryan said, the reasons for retirement, obviously the guy's 55, he's absolutely loaded with money, but his official response is he's found it increasingly difficult to reconcile living in Europe and working in North America. I think he lives in the UK, actually, he is British. And of course, between the lines, if we look into it a little bit deeper, Richie, Sony's PlayStation 5 console launched under Jim Ryan in 2020 in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, and it's become one of the company's most successful gaming launches, selling over 40 million units up and through to July this year. Its first-party titles like God of War Ragnarok, Last of Us Part 2, and more have sold multi-millions to acclaimed fame, and he's also adapted it into successful TV shows and movies as well. VR, not so much of a great launch for Jim Ryan's slate, but he's got the PlayStation Portal coming out later on this year, rounding up just some of the things he's capped. So all in all, very successful run as the head of PlayStation. What are our thoughts on this one? Is this just Jim retiring, or is there a deeper meaning to this? Because I've seen a lot of people on shows and podcasts and the internet as a whole, as they do, go a little bit too deep with maybe what this story is.
I think this story is just what the story is. I think we're going back, touching on VR slightly. I think there's a good product there. It's just the market isn't the market isn't there to sell enough units. Mm-hmm. But I think it is probably Sony PlayStation VR 2 is probably the best in class at the moment, apart from the extreme, like, ultra expensive pieces of gear. Well, I think this is probably it. He's getting towards a sort of retirement age. He has the money to retire, and if he's commuting a lot transatlantic, like on basically a weekly basis, that's going to be rough on him. That's a lot of time away from his family, a lot of time just spent in the air. And yeah, it probably is. If you think about it in terms of the life cycle of a console, this is probably, if you're going to change your CEO, this is the time. You've got over the air. You've had your console launch. You've got over the early integration issues, the supply chain issues. They're now a thing of the past, and you're not yet ramping up for the next big console launch. So this is the quiet, in terms of not necessarily in terms of the games, but in terms of the hardware. This is the quiet period. So if you're going to make a change, you want to do it here rather than you don't want to be starting to ramp up production and like development on the PS6 and then changing your CEO at the same time.
Head of Sony leaves imminently before launch.
This might be something that he's been thinking about for a few years and thinking, like, once VR2's out, once PS5's out the door and VR2's out the door, and PlayStation Portal is kind of where it needs to be, then I can start planning my exit.
Absolutely.
So it's probably just been something that's been in the plan for a while.
Yeah. I've seen quite a lot online of people. I saw people put like votes up on Twitter saying like, is this because of the ABK deal? And weirdly enough, that's what won out in the vote. It was APK deal, genuine retirement. What were the other options? There was like 4 options, and the APK deal won out. And it was like, why would that? I don't see that having much of an impact.
Thinking is like, how do I compete with that going forward? And like, but there again, that doesn't necessarily mean that isn't a genuine retirement. It might just be a case of, if I do, am I the one to take on this fight, or do I take this as my opportunity to step out and let someone else, someone who's younger and hungrier, to take on the fight going forward?
Absolutely. I think it's a bit of a crazy thing to think something that was out of his control would be a reason for him to step down or be forced out by the board. I don't think it's anything along those lines. I think it is just it's just that thing. Like, now it's out the way and done, as you said, in line with the other stuff. It seems like a natural time.
Sony could have got Activision Blizzard King if PlayStation could have got ABK if Sony gave him the money to do it.
Sony didn't have the money.
Yeah, but so then it's completely out of his control. So you can't. It's not going to be he's forced out because a company with more resources did a thing.
I think it's just fanboys getting a bit caught up in like, haha, Microsoft won this one, so then their leader has to step down because he's failed something. It's like you're reading too much into that.
Phil Spencer himself has said that Xbox is in third place. PlayStation is currently the top dog in terms of the gaming industry.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any Jim Ryan, anything accusations from Sony with Jim Ryan doing a bad job of being forced out.
No.
It probably just is a case of sometimes if you are the market leader, you can't rest on your laurels, and if he doesn't feel in himself that he has the energy all the time or the will to kind of keep pushing PlayStation forward, then maybe it is just the right time for him to go. Enjoy your retirement, Jim.
Yeah, Phil Spencer actually did tweet out about it and said like he was a fierce leader for Sony through some tough years and stuff. And I think COVID is a big testimony to what they've done. And I think that's what Jim's kind of came under criticism for in the past, is that he doesn't come across as a gamer. He's very much a businessman first and foremost. And I think as gamers, we often forget, it was like, he's in charge of a multi-million-dollar corporation. He's not someone who should be playing Crash Bandicoot on a weekend or something. This is a businessman. I know Phil is great that he plays games and people bump into him in Fallout 76 and he talks about playing this game and that game, which is great. It's a really good endearing factor. That's why a lot of people, and myself included, think Phil Spencer's a fantastic leader for Xbox. But when I look at Jim, he's in his suit. He never really... I think he was always misquoted as talking about why no one's a Gran Turismo remaster, because I think he said, like, look at them games. They don't look good by today's standard, or paraphrasing there. And that got him a lot of flack. It's like, he's right. A PlayStation 1 version of Gran Turismo 2, does not look good by today's standards. So why would Sony focus on that? And I think sometimes
bring out Gran Turismos anyway.
Yeah, I think gradually just some of his words have been twisted because he's not a quote-unquote gamer. But you can't deny he successfully launched a new console, as you said. It's market-leading number one. And through COVID and a pandemic, with big AAA launches, they are in a very, very successful position to transition over to new leadership.
And him not being a die-hard gamer hasn't restricted Sony being the leader in the gaming industry and producing some of the best games of all time under his leadership.
Absolutely.
You look at like God of War remakes, you look at Last of Us, was Uncharted under him or was that kind of before him? But Spider-Man, this all came out under Jim Ryan, so it's like... Yeah, I think it's an unfair accusation. Yeah, he's not the personality of Reggie Fils-Aimé from back from Nintendo or Phil Spencer, but he doesn't necessarily need to be. You don't have to be that personality to be able to communicate. Yeah, the fans.
I think that's the little variations, because he's not Sean Layden here. There's Sean who come out on stage with like a Crash Bandicoot t-shirt under a blazer and tease it, and he'd talk a little bit differently about it. He's very much a businessman. But then looking at some of his things, like under his stewardship, they've also acquired Bungie, which is going to be a huge long-term gain for PlayStation. He's also led the efforts to bring PlayStation games to PC for the first time, which if we look at the next entry, Helldivers, that's coming day and date to PC. alongside PlayStation 5. So he's definitely broadened the horizons of what the PlayStation brand means. I mentioned the movies and TV side. HBO's The Last of Us might not have happened if another leader was in charge of PlayStation. So I do think the creativity with Sony and PlayStation is led a lot by its smaller teams, like the heads of Naughty Dog, the heads of Guerrilla Entertainment and Sucker Punch and stuff, which is why they've been so successful. He's there just to steer the business. And yeah, a lot of people say like the shift in leadership is going to make for a new direction. I think there's something to be said in that too. Naturally, with a large corporation, when a new leader comes in, they do want to instill their own kind of methodology and their plans. So will we see PlayStation pivot? Probably. Will we see them do something different? Most likely, but not. I think it's not going to it's not going to be a knee-jerk reaction. It's going to be a slow process. Anything that's set in motion now, I think, will be seen out. But naturally, anyone who steps into those shoes is going to want to kind of get the team together and say, right, this is my vision, this is my goal for our company. Let's go.
Yeah, but I don't think a company the size of Sony is going to have the CEO is obviously going to have a big role in setting the direction, but he's not. Whoever comes in to CEO of PlayStation isn't just going to be able to completely rip up the rulebook.
Oh, not at all.
Like Sony will not allow that. It's like there's a lot of people involved in that decision, not just the CEO. So I don't think you'll see a massive shift in their strategy because the strategy is already agreed upon, and the CEO's task is not just so much to set the strategy, but to implement it.
Yeah, and we know, just like the leaks from last week from Microsoft, these companies have like 10-year roadmap plans. So all I'm thinking is it might be like, this is where we're steering the ship towards across the next decade. And this is some of the things I would like to implement. But like you said, yeah, the wider vision's already in motion. And why would PlayStation rock the boat too much when they're clean sailing out in first place at the moment? I think the biggest question people are asking is like, do we think we're going to see a pivot away from these games as a service titles? Which, let's face it, they've not set the world on fire right now.
They haven't really released many though. This is a slow burn. We've got nothing new out of Bungie since that takeover. We still haven't got fair play from Haven.
Fair games.
And yeah, there's quite a few things that in the works that we probably haven't even heard of. I think once you get that first round of games as a service titles, if they all do terribly, that might be when you see a bit more of a shift.
Pivot back.
But until they come out, and to be fair, they'll probably put with games as a service, you chuck 10 games out, one's a success, you consider the strategy a success.
If it makes money, if the balance book's balanced, checkbook's balanced, balance book. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot to be said. I think with PlayStation, as long as they keep giving us those AAA quality story narrative driven games, I think the audience will be fairly happy. I think the problem at the moment is we just don't know what's next. Like beyond Spider-Man and Helldivers in February, we don't really know. If they came out next month with a showcase and said, look, Ghost of Tsushima 2 in the bag, the next Horizon game is being worked on, here's an actual genuine look at what the hell Last of Us Factions is, and here's a couple of other titles as well, and the games as a service as part of that, I think people will be happy. I think at the moment we're just, the dam is ready to burst with people want information.
Well, I kind of like the idea of once a year, probably maybe this time of the year, maybe October, November, you do a PlayStation showcase where you come out and go, this is what to expect in 2024. This is everything that we've kind of got that is penciled in for 2024. Things may shift, so you don't have to put hard dates on everything. But if you do that once a year, and then you have your state of play incrementally throughout the year to focus on specific games, I think that is a good strategy, because then you go, oh, so next year these are the games I can expect to play. Yeah.
But as we said, shrewd businessman was Jim. He did enough to rock the boat with the Microsoft merger to delay that by about 2 years. I think he dropped enough quotes in there and references and going to court and whatnot. But I think all in all, yeah, successful tenure. And I think if I was him at 55 years old and I was as rich and successful as he has been, why wouldn't you want to retire? I think what everyone forgets is these people, Phil, Jim, even Phil Harrison, shout out to Phil Harrison, they're still people at the end of the day who have families, who have lives, loved ones, pets. And yeah, maybe getting on a plane every other week and traveling to the other side of the world is just too.
Maybe I hear spend more time playing games.
Maybe this is time as Jim's going to retire. I would love it if he genuinely retired and then all his Twitter feed or something was, I'm just catching up on my back catalogue. Just checked out this game from like 2016. Yeah, something like that. I was like, oh, this is phenomenal. I've never got around to it. Can't believe this. And yeah, that would be really, really funny of Jim. But again, like, yeah, he's a 55-year-old guy who's done a lot of graft at Sony over the last 30 years, and we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And like I sometimes, even in my job, I don't like my 2-hour commute to work sometimes, and I do it quite rarely now thanks to lockdown. But yeah, doing all that, it's a lot of pressure, a lot of strain, and we don't know what's going on. So shout out to Jim Ryan. Enjoy your retirement, and hopefully we find a successful successor. But in the meantime, I'm sure Hiroki Totoki, which is a cool rhyming name, is going to hold down the fort. I've seen some people banding around saying like Shuhei Yoshida should come back and do it, but I think, once again, another gentleman who's in his, I don't want to say twilight years.
He stepped down to take over the indies, which seems to be more of a passion project for him. Is like, I don't want to lead the entire thing anymore. I'm just going to take over this one thing and just lose myself in the indie stuff.
Yeah, if you were...
It seems like a good fit. Like,
again, if you talk about these like gamer people, like Shuhei's always got praise within the PlayStation community because he does play games, and at the moment he literally tours the world, plays awesome indie games, signs them up for PlayStation, and then just takes photos with the devs at the studios. And then that sounds like the dream.
I mean, there's probably more to his job than just
that, absolutely.
Still, yeah.
But in terms of responsibility, why would you want to step up and be the forefront of having to tell people about like price increases, PlayStation Plus price rises, games as a service games, and it just seems like it's an important role, and it's a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if Herman Hulst steps up, because he's currently head of SI. Is it Sony Games Europe or something? He got promoted from Guerrilla up to something. Can't remember the role. He seems like the next natural one. I don't imagine like Neil Druckmann or anyone like that, Corey Barlow. It's not that. They're more creative types than business leadership.
It kind of depends, because they're getting what was it? Takoi? What was his name?
Hiroki Totoki.
Totoki, yeah. If Shuhei Yoshida was going to come in and take over, I think it would have been an interim role, and I think we would have had that announcement.
Yeah.
I think they may have even approached him, but I could see that being one where if you were Shuhei Yoshida and you didn't want to step up permanently, knowing the profile you have, would you take an interim role?
Yeah.
Because as soon as he takes the interim role, then suddenly the call is for him to take it permanently.
Mm-hmm.
So he might have just gone, look, if you absolutely need me, I'll do it, but I'd rather not, and it's probably better for PlayStation that he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Same with like Herman Hulst, yeah, maybe, but my question mark over there is if he has been like, because Jim Ryan doesn't leave till like March next year.
Yeah, it's plenty of time.
So if it was going to be him, they could have, I'm guessing they would have been having conversations with him already. Potentially.
You never know with these companies. It all happens behind the scenes until like it's official.
Yeah.
Unless
like Jim's just went, right, he's my notice. Let's get the press conference done now, so they haven't had any time to start laying the groundwork. Which doesn't feel like that's the way this would work in a massive corporation. I mean, for a CEO, it feels like you're having these conversations in the board for quite an extended period of time.
Oh yeah,
board have probably been aware, for maybe a couple of years, that he is thinking about leaving.
Yeah.
So
these things don't happen quick. Of course, remember it did leak via Bloomberg ahead of time, and then it was official post went up. So this might have been a reaction to the leaks just to get ahead of it, because you don't want, for your stock and shareholders, you don't want that like unnervy unknowingness being out there in the wild. Herman is the head of PlayStation Studios, so it does seem like a natural jump up to that one, but time will tell. But as I said, happy retirement, Jim, and hopefully we'll all be as rich and successful by the time we hit 55 and can retire then, because let's face it, Rich, our retirement age at the moment is probably looking like around about the 70 mark. So if we're still doing this show then, don't forget, subscribe, join down below. From as little as 99p, you can support our retirement too. But moving on to somebody else, Yves Guillemot, head of Ubisoft. You can help his retirement out by buying Far Cry 7. That's right, we got some leaks this week about the upcoming, inevitable Far Cry 7 open world game from Ubisoft. It's in the works, and we have story and gameplay details that seemingly have emerged. Players in Far Cry 7 will see you attempting to rescue a wealthy family who've been kidnapped by a group calling themselves the Sons of Truth. According to Insider Gaming, the first reports show it's deep in development, since back in January, probably a little bit before. Sources close to the website say it's called Codename Project Blackbird, will feature a non-linear story based around, as I said, the kidnapping of a protagonist family that plays out over a seemingly must be completed within 72-hour in-game hours agenda, equating to 24 hours in real time. Supposedly, the main goal of Far Cry 7 is to bring down the Sons of Truth, described as a conspiracy group within that time frame. The timer is set to stop while within certain locations, such as safe houses, but it's claimed players will also need to track down and rescue their family members along the way in order to 100% the game. Enemies can supposedly lie, refuse to cooperate, or even escape. The non-linear nature of the campaign means family members can be approached in any order. However, family members can also die, impacting the story. If it's true, it sounds like something a little bit different from the 20-year-old shooter series from Ubisoft, and they're aiming for a fall 2025 launch for Far Cry 7, so it might be a little while yet before we see anything official, Richie. What are your thoughts on this one? Mixing up the Far Cry formula? We know it's one of Ubisoft's kind of tried and tested video games. What do you think about the Sons of Truth and the direction they seemingly are taking?
Well, long-time listeners know my criticism of Ubisoft is the hit on their formula, and then just kind of feel like they always just print the games out since then under the same formula, and it felt very stale for a few years now. And I always criticize them for seemingly the games never felt like they had any real ambition. As long as they were hitting that 7 or 8 out of 10 and selling well, they were content. Mm-hmm. This feels like they're ripping up the formula when what could we do with Far Cry in a very interesting way? I actually kind of like the timer on it, because with massive open worlds you can just get, and when I've played Far Cry games, this is what tends to happen to me. I get bogged down in side quest stuff, going after miscellaneous map icons, and then I just fizzle out in the game. Where this feels like, no, it's going to keep forcing you back into the main story, even if the main story is non-linear. And I think non-linear makes sense for, if you think about an open world game, a non-linear storytelling makes more sense, because then you're giving the player agency to go off in whatever direction they want, but then that is being productive and building into the story, rather than having a linear story set in an open world game and you keep dropping in and out of it. It's like, if you think of Starfield, you have to make a conscious choice to play through the story, where this kind of approach, it's the similar approach to like the newer Zelda games, actually, where you will stumble across story elements as you're just playing the game in a very natural, organic way. I like it. It sounds good. I mostly like that they are experimenting and not sticking to the same formulaic approach. It seems like Ubisoft are finding an interesting direction to go in again, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one regarding the formula. They have done a similar thing before in terms of the non-linear pathway. I think in Far Cry 5 you had the different members of Hope County, all the different family members of the bad guy's family, and you could take each of them in any direction. It had kind of a mini story within their area. And then you took them down and fed back into eventually going for the big boss. In terms of the timer and stuff, now the last entry, Far Cry 7, it was received very well. It sold well. I saw a couple of people online basically saying after the failure of Far Cry 7, it's it wasn't a failure. It was a solid entry in the series. It was, I think a lot of the reviews said it was basically, if you like Far Cry, it was more Far Cry.
Yeah, that was the biggest criticism. It's just more Far Cry.
Yeah, which if you like Far Cry, that's not a bad thing. They got a great villain in the form of Giancarlo Esposito in as well. Did a great job, and yeah, the game looked great. It was fun. I got the platinum trophy in it as well, and the DLC content started to lean into that kind of roguelike setup with if you die, you lost everything. There was a time limit on your exploration, and if I'm totally honest, from my take, I don't like the fact that there's a timer on it. I like Far Cry for that very Ubisoft copy and paste thing. I know what I'm getting. I'm getting a big map to explore. I'm getting lots of checkpoints to take down, generic villains to kill with a mixture of weapons, helicopters, explosives, all that kind of stuff. And it's just about having crazy fun. I've enjoyed 3, 4, 5, 6 to this point. I've got the platinum in them all, and that's kind of the Ubisoft comfort food that I look for. Telling me I've got 72 hours to do this in, I don't like the thought of it. I'm open to seeing how it plays out. I'm sure it's not as restrictive as it maybe sounds on a front, but of course...
72 hours, I mean, that equates to 24 hours in game time.
So a day. The main story. So it all happens in a day, yeah.
Yeah, in real time, 24 hours. That feels, for a main story, feels perfectly adequate, to be honest. It depends how big the map is and how much stuff there is in the map. But it might just be a case of after that 24 hours, you can still play. You've just...
Your family's dead.
Family's dead, or you've already saved them.
Yeah.
It might not just be and your all credits moment, or there's potentially new game plus opportunities and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on how it plays out. But I like the fact that they are trying something different, changing up the formula a bit. It depends how much that is changed, because long-time Far Cry fans might, because I'm not really a Far Cry fan, this is more enticing to me than just Far Cry 7 just being Far Cry 6 in a new location with a new baddie.
That's fair. But we'll obviously find out more once Ubisoft get all their ducks in a row regarding that one in particular. But no doubt we will have...
There's no guarantee there will be ducks in this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably... You usually hunt animals for skins and stuff as the Far Cry tradition, so I reckon there'll be ducks. But there will inevitably be like a particular villain. They'll probably get a celebrity or something to do it. And there'll be no doubt DLC packs and stuff, but expect the same action from Far Cry. The Stranger Things DLC was great from the last one.
That was
so
really fun.
It's a shame they couldn't do like just a whole game based on that, but Ubisoft be doing Ubisoft things. Moving away...
Netflix gaming as well.
Yeah, exactly. Moving away though, we don't usually talk about VR overly too much, but we mentioned it earlier on with the PlayStation launch, PSVR 2. Apple still do have their imminent Apple VR headset, which is coming out. That's cost like about $3,000. We now have news that the MetaQuest 3 is officially coming on the 10th of October, and it's going to be starting at £480 in the UK. It's got a bunch of tech, which I'm not really going to go into in terms of process and power. It's basically a lot better than the MetaQuest 2. It's going to attempt to rival the PSVR 2, and of course the difference with the MetaQuest is it's completely wireless. So mixed reality and stuff, and a bunch of games coming along to it. When it does launch, there's going to be two models, 128 gig and 512 gig of internal storage with different price points, and includes a copy of Asgard's Wrath, which is due to launch in December, which you won't get at launch because it isn't out yet. And there's also a subscription to MetaQuest Plus, which is going to be basically like a PlayStation Plus equivalent, where you get games every month free included in it. Games such as The Mighty Coconut, Mother Gunship, and Walkabout Mini Golf, which I don't know about you, Richie, but none of them titles strike me as...
When you hear like the storage options, you know you're not going to get the biggest and greatest games, because that's not... If you think about what Xbox are doing with the next iteration of the series consoles, half a terabyte is deemed not enough, and this begins at 128 gig. So yeah, I mean, it's... But there's more interesting news actually about this. The bit that I'm more interested in.
There is. So although those games sound a bit shoddy on the front, which we know some VR titles usually are more about experiences, they also announced as part of the MetaQuest 3 presentation that Xbox Cloud Gaming will be coming to MetaQuest headsets in December, which means your entire library from GamePass will be playable via your eyes. And I guess that opens it up to a lot more. You're talking hundreds of games, the likes of Starfield and Forza and stuff, in your face, Richie, in your face. Now, we've said for some time, we've discussed about kind of the old VR way of like Google Daydream, in fact, when you would just pop your phone into a VR kind of like frame, pop that on your face, and that was kind of like rudimental cheap VR. And we've done a whole episode of SideQuest and/or CloudQuest in the past about could cloud gaming help alleviate that, because your mobile device traditionally gets really, really hot when it's pushed to its limits and it's trying to process an entire game. And we've always said cloud gaming would alleviate that because it's just a screen at the end of the day rather than the necessity to have the game on board. You'll no doubt still need to use a Xbox controller. That's fine. But Xbox Cloud Gaming coming to the MetaQuest. Does this give it a cutting edge against things like the PSVR 2? Playing Starfield on your face is pretty cool.
What we should clarify here is this isn't there's no announcement from Microsoft that they're getting involved in VR gaming. This is just cloud gaming through Game Pass as you currently experience it on a TV, for example, a smart TV, but through your MetaQuest headset. Face. However, so the experience will just be, instead of playing on the console looking at the TV, you've got your headset on using a controller, which I like it in a way that it's just bringing Xbox Cloud Gaming to another place to put it. So if you are a VR gamer and you have a headset and you want to play something like Starfield, but you don't want to spend a lot of money on an expensive PC or console, this is a solution using hardware you already own. And that, for me, is always a good thing to have. I think this could open the door to a further partnership, though, between Meta and Microsoft about developing VR games. And maybe there's some games that are on Xbox that have VR alternatives, such as Resident Evil, for example.
Mm-hmm.
That could then be a way of Microsoft getting these onto Game Pass via the Meta Quest through some way. Or maybe, like, it goes the other way. Maybe this goes into the Meta Quest premium service, but it's hosted by Xbox Cloud Gaming.
Yeah, you could almost...
So there's a potential something there.
Yeah, you could almost have, like, similar to what Microsoft do with, like, EA Play and Ubisoft Classics, where they're folded into Game Pass in a way, or vice versa. Like, the MetaQuest stuff could be a perk of having Game Pass Ultimate, or vice versa, Game Pass could be a perk of having MetaQuest Plus subscription model. Either way, though, like I said, it's more games and more screens, and we know Microsoft are not really that interested in VR. We saw that from the 10-year roadmap. VR wasn't on there, so they're not.
This could be, though, a way of dipping the toe in VR without a massive outlaying cost by basically using Meta to take that, and then they're getting involved. They're taking a cut of the potential sales of VR games.
Yeah. Just
via a third party, in this case, Meta.
Absolutely. So, new VR headset coming to the market, which no doubt will probably, as again, all kind of tides raise all boats thing, we'd expect more PSVR 2 action to happen. And with Apple going into the market finally with their ridiculously expensive headset, we might see it rise yet another peg or two up the ladder. So, who knows? But cloud gaming, always said it's super accessible. It works on any screen. Why wouldn't it work on a VR screen as well? So keep your eyes out for that coming this December. What you won't have to wait for, though, is EA Sports FC 24, aka FIFA 24, because it's here, it's out now, and we're going to talk about it. I've got it, I've played it, I've started my career mode, and I've done a couple of matches. I actually won all my matches, Richie, in our first look that's up on the channel right now. So if you're curious about how it plays, how it looks... So when you do it in... No, I did it on semi-pro. But when you actually start the game now, it does a dynamic difficulty measurement. So as you play the first game, it reads how well you're playing against the AI, and it adjusts your difficulty level accordingly, and it recommends what you should be at.
See, it's done that in a few games, and I've always just ignored it and set it to world class.
World class? No, I'm actually playing on, now in my career mode, I'm playing on professional, because I give Man City a drubbing 6-0, so I thought maybe I need to bump this up a little bit.
Have they fixed the game? Because my biggest issue with previous FIFA games was when you're playing career mode, I think it's fine when you're playing other people and card games like Ultimate Team and Seasons, all that kind of crap that I'm not interested in. When you're playing career mode, which is the proper game mode that you should always play, no bias here at all, clearly. Mm-hmm. When you up the difficulty, I just felt like there was always just more bullshit put into it. Like your defenders would just run out of the way, or the positioning would just be terrible, or suddenly crap players become the best in the world, and there's weird, like, sometimes feels like rubber banding when you'll have someone like, I don't know, John Stones out sprinting Raheem Sterling. Weird stuff like that seemed to happen in higher difficulties for me in career mode. So have they fixed any of that? I
don't think I've played enough of it to. I only got it on Friday. I've only played probably about 6 or 7 games in career mode.
I very much have a love-hate relationship with FIFA.
I think a lot of people do. In terms of the game, though, graphically it looks great. They've obviously done a lot to polish up the branding of FC 24. It still just feels like a FIFA game, as you'd imagine. It's not really that all different. In terms of the reviews that it's getting, it's interesting with sports games, especially because they're annualized franchise. Like, where do you go to give them? There's like some give it, like IGN, 7 and 8 out of 10s, saying it might have a new name, but it's just about the same frustrating but beautiful game that FIFA has been for many, many years. And then you've got like Game Reactor giving it a 4 out of 10. EA seemingly spent more on its marketing the new name to improve the formula than actually improving the game. But
I think that's harsh, because I'd be interested to look what they give like FIFA 23. Because if they give FIFA 23 a 7 or 8 out of 10, mm-hmm. and they go on FIFA 24 is basically the same again, then it surely should be having the same sort of rating.
Yeah, it's such an odd one. So like Games Radar, 4.5 out of 5. There's room for improvement, which is why that extra half star is missing. But EA Sports FC goes down as a highly accomplished reboot, kicking off the post-FIFA era with precision, power, and no little panache. again, it's if you're into these sports games, you get that expectation. And now I'm like several hours into this one. It's what I expected. It's just more FIFA. Yes, there are quality life improvements. There is a couple of bugs with this one. I will say I've experienced where my button stopped working in my first look. Funnily enough, it was, I think I was playing Milan as Newcastle United, and for whatever reason, I went to make subs around the 60th minute mark, which I usually do. The option start button didn't work. Just unresponsive to the press of the button, so I couldn't make any subs.
I fell asleep on the bench.
Maybe, but then ironically enough, Richie, at 0-0 in the 62nd minute or something, trying to press it, I looked at the camera and I was like, look, I'm pressing the button and nothing's happening. And me doing that, something messed up, and actually Isak won the ball from the defender by default, put me through on goal, and I scored from me just for going, look, the button doesn't work. And I went, oh shit, I'm through, wait. And like it glitched out a little bit.
Looking at these reviews, the thing I'm slightly disappointed in is actually when you read the VGC review, EA Sports FC 24 isn't a huge departure that we'd hoped for. I wasn't expecting it to be honest. I was expecting it to just be a new lick of paint. So wouldn't be that disappointed. Yeah. While Ultimate Team devotees will likely be happy, the rest of the game feels like an afterthought. That's the bit that gets me, is like, oh God.
Yeah.
Like, because I have absolutely zero interest in Ultimate Team at all. So when it feels like the game modes I'm interested in do feel like an afterthought, and we've criticised the multiplayer options for not being able to just create a multiplayer lobby and just get into a game with either just me v you or adding other people in, and it always has to go through seasons and weird game modes. Like I just want to have a kick off and just get people in. So stuff like that. If this is still like an afterthought, that to me would be disappointing.
Yeah.
However, I'm almost certainly going to buy this game at some point and play probably well over 100 hours.
Yeah, it's
as I say, I've got a love-hate relationship with it.
It's just sports in general, isn't it? It's more FIFA. If you're a fan of the sport, you're going to pick this up. I think the rebranding has actually worked really, really well. Playing the game, having the game. It's not really all that different. It's just, even though it doesn't say FIFA on the front, just visually you can tell what it is, and I don't think anyone's going to get confused and go there going, they've not released one this year. Like, if you're a fan of FIFA, you know it's changing its name. They've done enough around that.
If you're a fan of FIFA, you're going into your game shop or you're going online, you're looking for it, you're going up to the rack where they've got it. It's going to be at the top of the rack because it's one of the new titles. It's going to be exactly where you expect it to be. And you're going to pick it up and you're going to say EA Sports. You know that's what it is. It's not going to be a problem with sales.
I wonder how many people think FC stands for like FIFA Club or something as well. But a side note from this story about its launch, and again, it'll sell in the absolute millions, as it always does every year. EA seemingly have delisted the entire FIFA back catalogue from digital storefronts on console and PC. So it's been checked over, and basically, every annual football game, it's still available, of course, if you've purchased it. It's still available as part of things like GamePass, but it's not purchasable across all storefronts as of this week, ahead of the general sale and launch of EA Sports FC. Does this come as any surprise to you, Richie?
No, I think it's just... There's some conspiracy around it, but I think this is just a license. The licensing agreement with FIFA is up, so this is probably just a routine. They have to delist it because they can no longer market FIFA titles.
I'd also imagine
it sucks for game preservation, but I'm not sure how much game preservation matters for something like a FIFA, an annualized title like FIFA.
What, you mean you don't go back and play FIFA 05 with Wayne Rooney on the front of the cover?
No, I think because FIFA, although you're buying a new copy every year, it does feel like a continuation of the same game rather than buying a completely new experience. Mm-hmm. So it does suck that the previous ones aren't available for game preservation, but I do think it's game preservation in this sense is slightly less important than like a narrative-driven game or something that is more of an art form rather than just... The FIFA games, let's be fair, are just a product. Yeah. I love them, but still.
So you mean you're not going to go back and play the 2002 FIFA World Cup Korea and Japan game?
No, if I was going to go back and play vintage FIFA, it's going to be 98. FIFA 98 rode the World Cup.
You could play 98.
That was the first one. The international foul button. I had it on PC. I used to play with mouse and keyboard.
There was one, I think it was 08 or 05 had FIFA 98 in the game. It's like a playable option.
See, the stuff like from 98 that you had the indoor football game match with, and how you could actually have it so you could bounce the ball off the sides. That happens with.
Well, it's got like Volta as part of the new one, so you've got that kind of FIFA Street element. But yeah, I think you and me are both along the same lines of like FIFA / EA Sports FC should just be a platform with like literal season passes, roster updates, kit updates every year.
Do one a console generation,
and yeah, go for
and then just update it throughout the things, and you have this is the platform, or maybe if you develop a new engine at some point, that maybe when you bring it out, but it doesn't have to. I don't think it necessarily needs to be annual.
Yeah,
you could even charge the same price. You could just go, this is the annual upgrade cost.
Yeah, and it prints money anyway, so that's the reason they don't do it. In terms of the games being obviously delisted, as you said, it's the 30-year partnership ended with FIFA because they got too greedy and corrupt, as FIFA are.
Imagine being too greedy and corrupt for EA.
I know that's saying something, isn't it? That's saying something. But in terms of them all being delisted, I think, it's something probably to do with the licensing being up. But at the same time, if you're EA, getting rid of anything of the mention of the word FIFA and just having FC24 front and foremost is probably a smart business move, because then anyone who wants to play a football game, they get funneled default towards yours. They don't even have a second choice of going, well, maybe I'll pick up last year's version. It's like, no. If you want a football game, it's FC24 or nothing.
Yeah, I think that's probably a side benefit to EA rather than the purpose. The purpose is probably just a license.
And the reality is, if you want to play this, you have it. Like you said, I bought it. You're inevitably going to buy it at some point, and it's just if you're into the sport, it's your only option really, because no one's out there playing eFootball.
Pro tip here: if you want to go get FIFA 23, I can guarantee you'll find it in a bargain bin for about £5 nowadays.
It was on Game Pass, wasn't it, as well? Still is on Game Pass.
Yeah, but if you... That's interesting. That might get removed. I haven't checked to see if it's still there.
They're still all the FIFA titles are still on Game Pass as part of EA Play, so they're not gone from there. But that's a subscription model thing, so
they might start to disappear.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I mean, like who's gone back and playing like FIFA 17 on Game Pass? Who knows? But
someone probably will.
I mean, someone who doesn't care or has like a love for a team that got dropped out of League 2 and they're no longer in the game. I will point out though. You can go into career mode, Richie, create your own team, remove another poor team from League 2, and start off your league journey with a team of your own choice. You can make the club colours, the emblem, bit crap in terms of a logo design. You can pick the kits, and you basically have to rename every individual squad member from an existing team in League 2. Yeah. So if you are one of those poor National League teams, you can do it.
It'd be interesting to see if they should bring it back. And this is where, like, if they did FIFA as just a platform, they could bring back. They used to have like a creation tools on the
website,
where you could upload your own logos. You could have a bit more. You could even scan photos, and if they had it as a full kind of this is just a platform, you could bring that back in.
A design, especially with today's tech. Like, facial scans and stuff now are so much better than they were back in 2008 or whenever it was.
Using the AI algorithm, just take a photo front, left, right, and it does a scan and it models it.
Absolutely. I'm going to, I think, make the guys who we play football with on a Monday night, I'm going to make a squad of just us. I'm going to give us a team name. And I'm just going to make a career as though we entered League 2 at absolute amateur level and see how far we get.
Are you going to be accurate with our actual stats?
You can't. You can't do that. You can't do that. You basically have to pick an existing squad. So you might not even end up being the same ethnicity you are now, or the height or age. You'll just basically be swapped out for whoever currently exists in, I don't know, Barrow's squad or something like that. Yeah. But we digress. So no more FIFA. Long live EA Sports FC if you are a fan of the beautiful game. Speaking of beautiful games, Richie, a couple of quick ones to work our way through. Starting with Knights of the Old Republic, which has been due a remake for quite some time. It's been on the slate since, I think, the last PlayStation Showcase, actually. Aspyr, part of the Embracer Group, were initially supposed to be making it. And they didn't give a date for it, but it was teased. You saw Darth Raven, I think, is the guy in the trailer, way back in 2021. However, due to difficulties behind the scenes, we know Aspyr were taken off it, and it was handed over to Saber Interactive as part of an Embracer Group reshuffle. Since then, all the videos, trailers, have been made private across the internet, and some of them deleted, which is leading to rumours to say that the game has been pulled inevitably, and it's just basically going to become vaporware. Richie, Knights of the Old Republic, you've played it, right?
A bit, but I didn't play it when it came out, and when I tried to go back and play it like many, many, many years later, it did feel a bit. I didn't have the nostalgia for the game to carry me through like the old school kind of jankiness of it.
That seems fair. Fair. I'm the same. I never played it because it was an Xbox exclusive initially, which is ironic now it's dubbed as a PlayStation 5 exclusive for a new era of gamers. But it is one of the most revered Star Wars games of all time, so I would 100% pick it up and play it and probably thoroughly enjoy it. I love some of the Old Republic stuff that I've seen and watched before. The videos, even just the cutscenes. If you go check them out on YouTube, graphically, they're some of the best lightsaber fights I've ever seen are in Knights of the Old Republic. Sony, though, have updated the news article since and said that it's due to music licensing issues and described putting the videos as private as a normal process. I think there's something more to be said because this game is seemingly having difficulties behind the scenes. I don't think anyone really entrusted Aspyr to begin with, although they did do the iPad port of Knights of the Old Republic. Seemingly a step up.
There's a difference between a remake and an iPad port, though.
Absolutely. And we know Embracer Group have problems of their own, laying off staff and such as well, closing down Volition, and entire studios are going. Do you think we ever actually see this game this generation, or is it one that's just destined to be out there in the wild?
I think we will eventually see this because I think there's enough fan interest that someone will take it over the line. I think this probably has been pulled for licensing issues, but if Embracer are kind of struggling for cash and Sony are looking at the game, seems to be in development hell, they might be going, well, we're not going to cover the license for this, the licensing fees for the marketing and stuff until you get your act together, because why be spending money marketing a game when the game is nowhere near ready? It feels like this is a game we probably shouldn't know about yet.
Yeah. Again,
this might be a Dead Island situation where you basically had to start it again, and then it was a decent game. But so you end up with this extended development time because they basically developed two separate games.
I mean, they shouldn't have to because the game already exists. It's not like Dead Island where they're making a new game that's then swapped over. This is
it's an old game, so there'll be a lot of modern sensibilities in a completely new engine. The story still exists. But then it's incorporating that story into a modern feeling game that is true to the original, that works now, and that's always going to be a bit of a trade-off.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the Embracer Group haven't exactly got a huge track record of knocking out the park with AAA titles.
Yeah. I wonder if Disney step in and basically say, like...
I could see Sony taking over this.
If
Sony are looking at what Saber are doing, going, what the hell, guys? I could see Sony maybe just buying it off them and going, we'll take it, we'll do it ourselves.
I mean, is it a chance for Microsoft to swoop in and be like, we want it because it was exclusive to us originally?
Give it Obsidian to someone.
I mean, it was the Mass Effect team, right, who did them initially, who made the original.
I think so.
Because they did Knights of the Old Republic, and then I think they moved on, and basically Mass Effect was the continuation of what they wanted to do with Star Wars. Yeah.
Yes, BioWare.
Yeah.
You could just give it back to BioWare.
Oh, I mean, they're a bit busy on other projects right now. You know who I would give it to, Richie?
Who?
Larian. They've just launched Baldur's Gate 3, so you'd imagine it's just going to be support for the near future. They've just put out one of the best RPGs of all time.
Yep, I like that. That's a good idea.
Give them the framework of Knights of the Old Republic and go work your magic on it.
And they're clearly happy to work with established IP because Baldur's Gate is an established IP from this kind of era of games as well. Like, had a similar reputation, especially in the PC gaming circles. Larry, that's a good fit.
That could be great.
That is really, really good. If Sony go, right, take it off. Sorry, embrace it. We're buying it off you. Larian, there you go.
Please do something with this.
Or Microsoft, even. The reason I'm saying Sony is because they're currently involved.
Yeah.
So it makes more sense to me for Sony to be in more position to go, especially if Embracer are consolidating, to actually just rip it off them and go, we're going to give it to someone else.
I mean, there's got to be, imagine, contract fail-safes, which, like, if you don't hit these deadlines, because I think that's what happened, wasn't it? Didn't Aspyr show it to leadership and at Embracer, and they were like, this isn't ready, this isn't good enough, and that's when they took it off them. So,
yeah.
Either way.
Imagine that. Imagine going in that meeting, you probably know it's crap.
Yeah.
You're going into the board meeting, go to show them it, and you just sat there looking, this is And you can probably just read the room. It's just got that's going to be a shitty day for whoever had to present
Oh,
that.
yes. Oh, yes. But whilst Knights of the Old Republic is apparently being slowly erased from the Jedi archives, we move over to another game that's also been cancelled. SEGA have cancelled the upcoming shooter Hyenas, which was confirmed this week as part of a restructuring over at SEGA Sammy. Hyenas, it's one that, as soon as I read the name, I didn't really know much about it. Then I watched the trailer, and it was like, oh, actually, I do remember this game. It was Sega's take on kind of like Overwatch, X-Defiant. It was like a combination of just basically Apex, everything you could imagine, an arena hero shooter. Reading straight from the tweet from the Hyenas Twitter account. Hi everyone, we're so sorry to announce the end of Hyenas development before we were ever able to bring our full vision to you. While the decision to cancel the project has not been made lightly, we know that doesn't make it any easier to accept for you or for us. We knew our plans were ambitious, and we knew we were diving headfirst into competition with some of the greats, but we believed in our journey, and we're proud to have taken every step along the way. We hope you'll join us in remembering the action-packed Zero-G, Chaos, and the die-hard community of players who helped make it special. So many people poured their hearts into this project for many years. Please be kind and considerate to them as the news sinks in. We're working hard to find new roles within the business for the incredible talent that helped us put Hyenas together. Thank you for your support, the Hyenas team. It's a bit of a shame in a weird way, actually, because watching the trailer, this seems to be one of the more competent looking, interesting shooters. It's got Sega items in there as like a funny, you can run around in a Sonic outfit and stuff.
It's got a very Sega kind of art style to it as well. Like the sort of thing you see in something like a Dragon, that kind of weird plasticky almost looking textured people.
Yeah, I get that.
Not quite Fortnite-y, not quite that cartoony, but it's not that far off it.
It looks like if Outcasters was a 3D game and it had zero gravity.
Yeah.
That's what strikes me as. But I like the name. Hyenas is cool. I like the logo, the colour concept.
It's got a Sega Mega Drive in there.
Yeah, and the game style. And again, Sega don't have anything really of this style, so it's a shame to think it was so close to launch. Like, it was actively being played now, so the game's essentially finished. So to see them turn around at such a kind of final pivotal moment and go, we're not doing this. I'm guessing they've crunched the numbers, and just keeping the servers alive would have cost too much money. But it's a shame they didn't put it out and just at least see how it could have done.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like... this has been described as being part of a Sega Sammy's like corporate restructure in more the European side rather than the Japanese side. And it just feels like this is just an unfortunate casualty. I think if they were looking at it and going, we have high expectations for this game, they probably would have let it go out and given it its chance. But if they don't have any real expectations, if they think it's just going to largely be dead on arrival, one of the games of service games that comes out, there's a bit of buzz around it for like a week, and then a month later, everyone goes, "Oh, do you remember Hyenas? Anyone playing that?" If they're looking at it and going, "It's going to be one of them," what's the point in giving it the support if it's going to implement the greater restructuring that they feel like they need to do?
Yeah,
it's an unfortunate. I feel sorry for the devs who put the heart and soul into this, got so close to the end, and then it's just been taken away.
No one's going to see the light of day. Like, at least they've had the beta, so like people have played the game, and there's that piece of history that does exist. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame.
But imagine working for years on a project, and then right at the end, your boss comes in and goes, "You're not doing that anymore. It's cancelled." And you're like, "But it's almost done."
Yeah, it's an odd one. It's a shame that it's essentially there ready to go and it doesn't get put out in any way, shape or form. But Sega are expecting record losses of 14.3 billion yen for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2024. So evidently they've got to do a lot of stuff behind the scenes to do this restructuring, which seems to be a big part of the industry right now. But best of luck to the team, Hyena team. I'm sure you've done great work and you'll find success elsewhere, no doubt. A couple of quick stories to get through, Richie, regarding just a few little games. Don't Nod's Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden, which I'm sure you remember from the Game Awards, has been delayed to February next year to avoid the intense release cycle. So Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden was due to be released later on this year, but it's now been pushed back to February 13th to avoid the intense release cycle of AAA titles.
Which is also stacked.
Which February is also stacked as well. Yeah, they might move again. Banishers unfolds in the frozen North American wilderness. The year is 1695, in fact, where ghost hunters and lovers, Ante and Redmac, working to protect I can't read today, from the spectral dead. Their situation becomes more complicated when Antea suddenly finds herself unexpectedly dead and also a ghost. Don't Nod and Focus Entertainment confirmed back in July. The game would originally be released on the 7th of December. This is the one for me, Richie. It looks like almost The Division, but you are ghost hunters. And I like Don't Nod. We thoroughly enjoyed Life is Strange True Colours. Full playthrough available up right now on the channel. I approve of Focus Entertainment's publishing arm. They've done a lot of great games right now. The Plague Tale series in particular. The game looks great visually. I just think, unfortunately, it's one of those games that suffers from the busy cycle we've got at the moment, but at the same time,
it doesn't have the mind share.
It's something about it is missing that novelty. It almost starts to look a little bit generic, dare I say it. But I think the delay getting out of November and this year as a whole, is probably the best thing for them. Although they've jumped back into February, which is also stacked.
But if they get a good trailer at the Game Awards and really kind of get a bit of hype, use that to get a bit of hype around them, get this in the hands of reviewers as early as they reasonably can. If it gets good reviews, then this could be something where there's something in there. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to know from a few trailers because we don't really know that much about the game, to be honest. It looks pretty. It looks quite linear, which I think is a good thing a lot of times.
Yeah, it does give me Plague Tale vibes, but there is something cool about your partner's kind of passed away, so it seems like she's going to be like your ghost companion. It's almost like your Ellie to your Joel or your Elena to Nathan Drake kind of thing as you go through and hunt and fight.
Hugo to Misha.
Yeah, exactly, all that, and it looks good. So like, if it comes up to good reviews, it might be in a quiet period, and maybe with the right price point is going to be key. Yeah. I think if this launches at about £35 to £38 would be the sweet spot for this title, but we'll see. Moving on, though, we've got another title, High on Knife, which is the DLC to High on Life, the Justin Roiland game that had such success earlier on last Christmas time, coming to GamePass later on recently to PlayStation 5. That comes out October 3rd, so you'll probably be able to play it if you're listening to this on Monday. It'll be live tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. High on Life gives Knifey his chance to shine and stab and fully realise new planetary environments loaded with new characters, hazards, and spooky surprises. Squanch Games release an all-new motion teaser to show off the creepy vibes and to showcase it. It's essentially leaning into the horror tropes. Richie, although one thing I did want to touch on is Justin Roiland not involved in the game, of course, after all the controversy surrounding him, I think at the beginning of this year.
Yep.
Have you seen the new trailer for the new season of Rick and Morty that does not include his voice?
No, I haven't.
I would recommend it because, in an interesting way, he's obviously got a very distinct voice. New trailer for the new season of Rick and Morty. Couldn't really tell the difference. Whoever's doing the voice for Rick and or Morty absolutely nails it. Sounds just like them. So I'm guessing the game Squanch Studios have always said they're going to continue without him. I think the creative director actually said he hasn't really spoken to Justin Roiland since like 2019. So this again, I think we were worried at the time that the whole studio made a really competent, good, fun game. We're going to be scuppered by one individual.
I think Justin Roiland's involvement in High on Life was explained to be actually
minimal.
Fairly minimal in terms of the gameplay and direction and anything. He was mainly just more of a voice actor with a bit of oversight. But I think they were using him as more of a marketing tool more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, it seems very distinct,
so it's like, guys,
isn't it?
We're fine without him. It's like,
yeah.
But yeah.
Again, voice actors, you can get them in. But High on Life, great fun, really good laugh. And High on Knife out this week. So go check that out. And then I guess just a quick few ones to get through, Richie, as we round out the show. Horizon Forbidden West is getting a complete bundle announcement coming to PC and PlayStation 5. It'll be available 6th of October, so later this week, for around $60, €60, etc., £55 in the UK. The complete edition is going to include all the DLC, soundtrack, digital art book, a Sunhawk digital comic book, in-game extra items, and a bunch of other perks and whistles. No surprise, Richie. I think this is standard practice now for most video games. I am actually holding out for as a side note, Cyberpunk. I did actually look into it, and the head of CD Projekt Red did confirm right at the beginning of, I think, last year, the general way that their business follows is they get their expansion packs out, so Phantom Liberty, and that'll follow with a complete bundle Game of the Year edition. Like, I think the only version everyone buys of The Witcher 3 now is the Game of the Year edition, if I'm not mistaken. So that's
why would you buy?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Especially once it's like come down in price. If it's like if it's a $60-$70 game, then and the Game of the Year edition is like $80, you're like maybe not. But if it's down to like the base game is $25 and the Game of the Year is $30, it's a lot. Yeah, I'd go for the 30 even then, and probably never play the DLC.
Yeah, and then this is going to be launching on PC as well in early 2024. So a combination of it makes me want to go back and play Cyberpunk. It's reminded me that game of the year. Yeah, I think Starfield has just made me think Cyberpunk seems to be a better game, so I want to go play that because I never got to finish it.
There's quite a few people on Discord that have been playing it as well. And to be fair, Phantom Liberty is doing really well in terms of reviews. It feels like Cyberpunk has finally got its redemption arc.
It has. And then at the same time, this story also reminded me that I bought the Burning Shores DLC back in April, and then I believe Jedi Survivor came out, and I thought I'll do it after Jedi Survivor, and then the same thing happened. I bought Final Fantasy, finished that, and then I moved on, and then finished that, and then here we are, and I've not got the time to play it. But if you want it, if you've not played Forbidden West, it's a fantastic game. Go buy that and pick it out. And just to round out the show, I think Richie, we'll talk about some of the things we missed off on last week's show. Game Pass titles confirmed as coming soon. You've already got Party Animals. That's been confirmed and out available now. We definitely need to do that on a live stream at some point.
Yep.
Might be one for later on this week. Gotham Knights also confirmed as coming to Game Pass as well. Gotham Knights is one again we've kind of lamented as the game everyone just wants another Batman game, but WB seem intent on putting out everything but another Batman game. That came out earlier this year. That comes October 3rd. So again, at the time of listening, it's available this week. Could be another good one for a stream later on this week. Again, didn't want to buy it, but it is a multiplayer online game where we could get 4 people to jump in.
Yeah, I think for something like that, we ideally want a situation where me, you, and Rob are all free at the same time to play it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Same with Party Animals.
I'd agree. October 3rd also has the Lamplighters League coming out, which is a globe-trotting adventure with turn-based action combat. Seemingly, it reminds me of... why can't I think of it? It was on the tip of my tongue then. The game we played on Stadia back in the Strange Brigade, but a little bit more turn-based. Looks fun. And a bunch of other perks and whistles coming to Game Pass. Another big one, I guess, is Payday 3. It's had a couple of problems at launch. It's out now, it's available now. I'm not really a big fan of Payday. I think the games look quite generic. It looked more like Rainbow Six Siege, but with taking on a bank to break in rather than kill people. Yeah. But it's had a few server issues that apparently have resolved, but reviewed okay. It's an okay game, but it's part of Game Pass, so go check it out. Decent month, I think, for Game Pass.
Yeah, it's
all in all. Brand new indie game, looks good. AAA game, received okay.
It's when the highlight is Party Animals, an indie party game that's beaten out the likes of Payday 3 and Gotham Knights, which are meant to be like AAA experiences. You kind of like...
Absolutely.
But just it's a testament to how good Party Animals is.
It is.
Seems, yeah.
And then the final one, final story of the week, Tales of the Shire, which I wanted to touch on last week with Rob, but we never got around to it because it was so stacked with Xbox news last week. We're all Lord of the Rings fans, absolute crazy for it. Tales of the Shire was announced as coming in 2024. We don't really know what it is, but it's described as a cozy Hobbit-based Lord of the Rings spin-off game, and it's in partnership with Private Division and Weta Workshop. So for those who aren't familiar with Weta Workshop, these are the fantastic folks who did all the motion capture and miniature bigatures of the movies. They have like a games division now, and they've done some titles in the past, but bringing them in essentially to make this heartwarming Middle-earth Tolkien experience. Don't really know much about the game. The rumour is that it's going to be almost like a Stardew Valley style game set in the world of the Shire and the Hobbit, and I think that could work really well, like Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, but you're in the Shire, you're collecting your vegetables, you're building your Hobbit home, and that's it. There's no
life of a Hobbit.
Yeah, there's no fighting, there's no evil. It's just that happy Shire music that you love so fondly, and I don't know. Tales of the Shire, it's an interesting one. It's not made by the Embracer Group, which this is where I really don't understand the Lord of the Rings licensing, because it's owned by them now, but seemingly obviously Gollum was before that. We've got WB still on the movie rights, and it's just all over the place. But what are your thoughts? Sound good?
Is the licensing they have for the Lord of the Rings and not the Tolkien Legendarium?
Yeah, it's usually Hobbit and Lord of the Rings come in one bundle, and then everything else is separate. Why Amazon have like the Prime stuff?
Yeah.
It's interesting,
and stuff like I don't think Amazon have like the rights to Silmarillion to this, so that's why there's kind of they've had to force a lot of changes. I don't know. I think something like Stardew Valley Animal Crossing style of game could do quite well.
It could work.
Although it depends what the demographics looking like, because are the hardcore Lord of the Rings fans looking for that experience?
Probably not.
I don't know. I like it as a concept. But is the audience there?
Who knows? But in line with that, I should also remind people that Lord of the Rings Return to Moria comes out next month, 24th of October.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, they did a gameplay trailer for IGN, and it just showed a dwarf basically like hacking like Minecraft style away at bricks. It didn't actually show off in like a 30 minutes of gameplay. It didn't show all that much happening, but it's one of them where I know you, me, and Rob jumping in would have an absolute blast, just chipping away, fighting goblins in the mines and talking about stuff. But we'll have to see. The franchise chips on. There was quite a lot of news this week regarding Epic Games and layoffs. I don't want to really go into it too much. It's not really happy conversation. It's unfortunate more people have lost their jobs. Epic Games, a big chunk of the staff. Of course, the Mediatonic, the guys they bought after the success of Fall Guys, they've had loads laid off, and now everyone's unsure about Mediatonic's future. But at the same time, head of Epic, Tim Sweeney, takes like a bonus of $1.3 billion or something every year, or $1 million. I can't remember what it is. So just like 5% of that would fund these people's careers for the next few years.
And it feels like, I always think with these sorts, it happens so often in the gaming industry, it feels like, for me, bad management. If you're having to go through huge cycles of layoff and ramping up, like hiring, these kind of hire, fire kind of cycles, it just feels like bad business management, to be honest.
Especially for morale.
Yeah, it's got to be horrible for morale.
Yeah. So we've already gone into kind of like SEGA, their restructuring, Epic. Again, it's just big conglomerate tech companies seemingly going through everything. But Fall Guys, super fun, great game. It's a shame to think that they got acquired with all like probably the hopes and dreams of being part of a bigger thing, and then like a third of their work staff are laid off in one cut. So again, shout out to them. Hope they find success. And what a shame for Epic. They had such an opportunity this week after the fuck up that Unity had to come out swinging with like being like there for devs and being there to support the industry. And no, they just thought, I'll just take this gun, I'll just shoot myself in the foot, and yeah, we'll go down with the ship as well. And as a last point as well, apparently the FTC are not done with Microsoft. They're going to fight this court battle case over Activision Blizzard King. They have the chance to go ahead and derail it up until the 18th of October, so they've got a few weeks to get their matters together and raise it with the relevant court dates and judicial appeals right through to December. One tip, FTC, just give it up. Just give it up.
And in November, it'll be the EU going at it again. And then back to the CMA, and then back to the FTC. It's like,
I think the only reason now is they've dug the ditch that deep, and they probably owe Microsoft a lot of money in terms of like brand damages and all that kind of stuff. Because I think if the FTC lost, they owed Microsoft something like $4 million.
It was the CMA that held it up, and then Microsoft changed the nature of the deal to suit the CMA with the Ubisoft stuff, which has then obviously had impacts now. The FTC having to relook at it. It's all just by the numbers, kind of routine stuff.
Yeah, but FTC, when you can, just let it go, because we're fed up with that.
I think everyone wants an end to this.
I'm just waiting for that final day when Microsoft go, hey gamers, all the Call of Duty back catalogue is available now on Game Pass, and everyone goes,
and you can play it on your MetaQuest.
Damn right, yeah. Can't wait for that day. But today is not that day. We're here to round out the show.
Today we fight.
I was almost going to go into that, a big Aragon speech. But no, we're here to round out episode 7 of the GamerGuild podcast. Once again, thank you very much for all your support. We do love doing this every single week with the support and watchability of you fine folks out there. Shout out to, again, our guild heroes. If you want to become a member of the channel from as little as 99p, you can click join down below. We appreciate that extra support, and it does help us a lot. Plus, don't forget to check out the Sounds of Stadia special, episode episode 161, where we broke down all of the FTC case files from one and only Dov Zingring, who was the head of marketing at Google Stadia, going into a deep dive of why it genuinely failed. Was it the games? Was it the structure? Was it the internal problems? Or was it a combination of all of them? We'll talk about that, and we did talk all about that this past Saturday as part of our 4th year anniversary. But Richie, we're going to go play some games. We're going to go talk about some Google Stadia, as we do here on the channel. Happy 4 years to you, and thank you for being on this journey with me. It's been 4 years. It feels like a short period of time. I can't believe we've been doing this for 4 years now.
Yeah, I mean, COVID was like 2.5 years, which felt like...
It compressed it
at
down.
At the time, it felt like 10 years. In hindsight, it felt like 6 months. It's weird. And time is just going so fast at the moment.
It's getting old. That's what happens.
Like, if God exists, just slow it down a bit. Just a little bit.
Crank it down. We've got a back catalogue of games, and unlike Jim Ryan, we can't retire just yet, but we don't intend to. We intend to bring you this show every single week right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV. Don't forget to like, subscribe, of course, share with your friends. Leave a comment down below if you've enjoyed any of our content over the 4 years, but do consider becoming a member and helping to support us in the years to come, and maybe we'll do this for another 4 years, Richie. Maybe we will. Thank you very much for watching. My name's been Chris.
And I've been Richie.
Remember, folks, play whatever makes you the happiest, and we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.
Bye.